My plan is to create a dedicated police department, one that is community-based, well-trained, and focused on building trust. Second, economic development, bringing in new businesses and creating new jobs. Third, making sure City Hall works for the people, creating better services, providing transparency and open communication to the people of Centerpoint. Our young people, and really our families and seniors, need safe and welcoming spaces to gather, play, and grow. And that starts with our parks and community spaces. When we invest in our parks, we're investing in our kids, our families, and the future of Centerpoint. Everyone deserves clean and safe spaces to enjoy right here in their neighborhood.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight as we have this conversation about my plans to start a police department in Centerpoint. I know a lot of people have had some hesitation, reserve. There are some people that really want to see it. I think that, and I know, and with the budget and looking at the numbers, that it can be done. And I wanted to make sure that I put your mind at ease and give you the plan that I have to make that possible. So we will go through that tonight. And I will start by saying that I don't know it all. There are some things that I won't know until I am in office and am working with people qualified and with the experience. And I do recognize that. But also, with that, someone has to take that lead and start. And I am ready and willing to do that. So let's get into it. All right. So our conversation on the Centerpoint Public Safety. We'll go to full screen. Of course, the staffing. We will need a municipal court. We will need a jail to house our inmates, and equipment and technology. And that's what we'll be discussing on tonight. So the structure that I would work to start in Centerpoint will be a 15-person department. We'll have one chief, 3 supervisors, and 11 officers. So according to the Jefferson County Personnel Board, these are the positions that make up a police department for the size of Centerpoint. So we have the positions, the grade, and the salary ranges. So for Centerpoint, we are allowed to have a Chief 2, which is a grade 33, excuse me. So a Chief 2 is a grade 33. And the beginning range for a Chief 2 is 80,000 to 144,000 salary. So our 3 supervisors will be titled captain or lieutenant or sergeant. They are, captain is a grade 31, 26 for lieutenant, and 23 for sergeant. And as you see, the beginning and ending ranges for those 3 positions. And then our officers would be police corporal, police officer, and police trainee. And those are the grades 16, 19, and 20. And you'll see the beginning range and ending range for those. Now, police trainee don't have an ending range because the goal is to start as a police trainee and then move up to police officer. So there you have our ranges for the 15-man department. And on the next slide, you'll see how that would break down. So again, we'll have 1 chief, plus 80,000 to 144, 3 supervisors, and 11 officers. Now, if we take the cost or the salary for each of these positions and multiply it by the size that we're looking for, or the number of positions that we're looking for, again, I'll remind you, 1 chief, 3 supervisors, and 11 officers. So let's get that total of 11 officers. So it'll be about $433,000 to $821,000 for 11 officers. For 3 supervisors, we're looking at about $179,000 to $321,000, and then the 1 officer, again, that salary is $80,000 to $144,000. So if we add all those numbers together, this is the salaries for each of those positions by how many officers we'll have in the department. We're looking at a total of about $692,000 to $1.2 million just for salaries for our police officers. Now, rule of thumb is to add about 30% to cover taxes and other benefits of employees. So we'll add that in, and the average salary that we'll need in budget for the salary of our police officers is about $900,000 to $1.6 million. So we'll move to the next slide here. So we'll also need to have a municipal court. So we will need due process if our officers arrest or make citations and all the other legal terms, but we will need a part-time municipal court. And so what that would look like is we need a part-time judge, we need a part-time prosecutor, and we'll need a part-time public defender. Now, these numbers that I gathered were based on a small town in Alabama who has a part-time municipal court. Now, I do want to make note that we will need a full-time court clerk, so someone that is available during operating hours full-time. So that number is added in as well. So a part-time municipal court will operate about twice a month. And the other cost related to a municipal court, again, was gathered looking at another small town in Alabama who has a part-time municipal court. So we're looking at about $137,000 to run a municipal court. And let me also add, when we think court, we're thinking big and grand. But when you have a part-time municipal court, most cities operate their courts, again, about twice a month in their council chambers. So we have the space. We will bring in a part-time judge, part-time prosecutor, and defender, and have that one position for the court clerk. Let's move on to the next slide. So now let's talk about money, right? Because that's the big thing now is, or the big hesitation is, do we have the funds to make this happen? So we look at our 2024-2025 budget. The general fund, we had a projected revenue of about $7.4 million. And the expense of, or half of the expense of the Jefferson County Sheriff's contract is taken out of our general fund. And that is about $219,000 that we budget for. And then we also look at our public safety budget. So we have 2 different budgets. We have our general fund, and then we have a public safety. For the public safety, we have a projected revenue of $746,000, with half of the Jefferson County Sheriff's contract coming out of that budget as well, which is $210,000. So remember those numbers. Projected revenue, general fund, $7.4 million. And for our public safety, projected revenue, $746,000. We spend about $450,000 a year for our 4 officers, 4 deputies with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Let's move to the next slide. So let's take a look at what each department projects their expenses to be based on that $7.4 million revenue that we project. So the biggest cost that we have is the horticulture department, which is about $1.3 million. The mayor council, $1.2. We have our administration, which is $1.1. Parks and Recreation, $750,000. Public Works, $542,000. Inspections, $503,000. The community center, $465,000. The library, $390,000. Senior Center, $369,000. Code Enforcement, $320,000. Hillcrest Manor, $221,000, and Chamber of Commerce, $6,000. So these are the projected expenses that would balance out the projected revenue. So this should equal 7.4, give or take, $1 million. Next slide. So let's look at the big picture here. So we're looking at 7.4 million as our total, but when we're looking at how much of these funds are appropriated or expenses are appropriated to their revenue, we're looking at about 14.3% of our revenue is allocated to public safety. 4.3%. So the plan that I have would make this look a little different. The allocations will look a little different. So if we go to the next slide, I would like to see that 40% of our budget is dedicated to public safety. And I know you're thinking, DM, that's a lot. That's a lot. But if we look at some other cities in Alabama, this is not unusual to allocate such a percentage to public safety because public safety is a priority. So if we'll go to the next slide. In Trussville, they dedicate about 49% of their annual budget to public safety. Irondale dedicates about 37% of their annual budget to public safety. And Hueytown allocates about 47% of their annual budget to public safety. So it seems like a big jump, but when we're looking at priorities, it's not that big of a jump because if public safety is a priority, our budget should reflect that, right? Just like these other cities in Alabama, their budget reflects that public safety is a priority and they put the money there. We'll move on to the next slide. So how much do we really need for a police department, right? For the police department, remember those numbers, 900,000 to 1.6 million. For our municipal court, we're looking at about 137,000 to 150,000. But the question remains the cost of the jail, dispatch, and equipment. Next slide. So when we add the police department and the municipal court, we'll need about $1 million to 1.8 million. Next slide. But we still have some questions that need answering, right? So startup costs, equipment. So we'll need cars, we'll need radios, we'll need all of those safety equipment. And then we'll need to jail our inmates, we'll need dispatch. So we will need some MOUs to cover that because we do not have the capacity, we don't have the infrastructure to have a jail in the city. So those are costs that will be associated with startup costs. So our core costs would be to operate yearly would be the 1 million to 1.8 million. But there are some other costs that we'll need to consider for startup and the maintenance. So let's move to the next slide. So I was fortunate enough to speak with a smaller city in Alabama who has a partnership with their county sheriff's department. Asheville has a partnership with St. Clair County Sheriff's Department, and St. Clair County Sheriff's Department has or offers to Asheville, the city of Asheville, jail and housing, dispatch, and special enforcement. I actually have that contract that they have with St. Clair County right in front of me. So, of course, this is a different county, a smaller city. We're in Jefferson County. Our city is a bit larger than Asheville. Actually, Asheville's land mass is actually bigger than Centerpoint, but when we're looking at population, Centerpoint is a bit bigger than Asheville. But nevertheless, if we're looking at the contract that the city of Asheville has with St. Clair County Sheriff's Office, who provides their jail and housing, they have their adult inmate housing fee for the fiscal year 24 was $35 a day. They also pay Jefferson County, when I say they, Asheville pays Asheville pays St. Clair County a central dispatch fee of $48,000 a year. They also have or pay for an adult inmate housing fee of $35 a day. They have a drug enforcement unit, which they pay about $7,500 a year for those added services. So, and I bring that up because I want to make it clear that this is not something that is not already being done in the state of Alabama. This partnership with for a smaller city police department and the local sheriff's department, this partnership is something that happens and is possible. Now, I would not expect that the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department would have these fees, but I would love to or be open to and work with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department on discussing an agreement that is feasible for Centerpoint. Next slide. So the timeline. So this is not going to happen overnight. I don't expect it to happen overnight. This will be something very different for the city. So I would make sure that we're pacing ourselves to ensure that we're crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's. My goal would be to have a full police department by 2027. So what that will look like, the implementation phase for the police department. We'll start with zero-based budgeting. So we want to look at our budget to learn opportunities and advantages. So where we can cut, where we need to add, and that what that looks like is starting from scratch with our budget. I know that we'll look at how much we spent last year and base all of our expenses on that and either add or take away. But let's go to zero and see what's actually needed and what's not now that we're in today. So I know that over the years we've used this amount or we budgeted for this amount, but let's go to zero-based budgeting where the departments will work with the mayor and the mayor will work with the council with communicating, hey, this month we spent this amount in this department. Most of our expenses were related to whatever issue or whatever matter or whatever program. And we build a budget in 2025, 2026 based on us starting from scratch. And so while we're doing that, we'll work to seek partnerships with another agency, preferably the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, the City of Birmingham, so that we'll have the extra added services that are needed to ensure that we'll have that full police department and the functionalities of a police department and a municipal court. So again, that goes back to that partnership that we just spoke about with Asheville, or that Asheville has with the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department. So we'll seek the MOUs and the first or the beginning of our police department will be day shift coverage. We'll be in the transitional phase. So we'll have a full force during the day and we'll depend on Jefferson County Sheriff's Department for overnight coverage. And this will take some time, for us to work out how is this going to look or work. And as we're hiring officers, I know that I suspect that we won't have the full force day one. I would like to work and make sure that we're attracting quality officers. And so we'll start with our day shift coverage and then we'll transition with Jefferson County. So, and I say that to say, I am not looking to get rid of Jefferson County day one. Like, we're done with Jefferson County as far as patrolling. We're just going with our own police department. I do believe that it's best practice for us to have a transitional phase so that we'll know what is expecting what is to come. But of course, the end goal is to have a full coverage, full force police department. So we'll work to have our Center Point Police Department. Of course, it will not be this full 30 person force starting day one. There is work that we will have to do. And I'm willing to get there, and I'm willing to work so that we can get there. Next. All right, so we've reached the end. That was fairly quickly. We'll go through some questions. Now, I did have some people submit some questions prior to us starting, but you go ahead and drop your questions in the comment section, and I will get to those after we discuss the questions that I received earlier. So the first question is, why as a counselor, you didn't present this plan for a police department? Great question. And the answer is I did. So back in April, May of 2021, we received the feasibility study. And during the work session where we discussed the feasibility study on if we could afford the police department, which was done by the Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama, we got this report from Mr. Thomas Spencer of Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama. So during that work session, when we discussed the results, I presented to the council and the mayor this document titled Center Point Police Department Financing Options for Council Review. And in this document, I recommended budget cuts to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office contract, to legal services. I suggested cuts to the Chamber of Commerce contributions and to the Historical Committee, and also to increase our ad valorem tax from 5 millages to 10 millages, as well as increasing our business license fee. And the numbers that I presented then with all of these changes to our budget at that time, the total funds available would have been $1.5 million. And this note here, it says that I wrote to the council and mayor, this is about 30% of the cost the study found that the city needed. So 30% equals about 12 employees. Can we start a small police department and work our way to something much larger? Again, this was presented back in 2021. And I know this to be true also because the person that submitted this question, when I went over this in the work session, the next day submitted me or emailed me a question, not a question, concerns about increasing the ad valorem tax. This person stated that their house is paid in full and most people pay their millages through their mortgage, and this will be such a burden on me. And I would not agree with that. So good question, but yes, I did present a plan back then in 2021 to the mayor and council on how we could start something small. And again, this budget, the proposal, the feasibility study, called for 34 officers. I think the total amount is about $3 million. I have this here, and it's posted publicly. 4.5 to 5 million annually is what the feasibility study found or concluded the cost will be to maintain a police department. And again, I'm not saying that I know more or less than the person or the people that constructed this feasibility study. But what I am saying is that is something that we need for a full force, but we can start something today. And I think if we make this a priority, public safety a priority, it can be done. So next question, who is responsible for coming up with this type of plan for a police department? So The mayor submits a budget to council detailing what it would cost to properly run and manage the city, the day-to-days of the city. The council, as a body, approves the budget. But as the CEO of a city, it would be ideal for the mayor to create a plan and advise the council on how much it would cost and how it will be funded via the budget proposal that the mayor submits to council. So next question, will a police chief be hired and what qualifications or community experience will be prioritized? The first hire will be a police chief. And it's going to be someone with a proven track record of leadership in law enforcement, preferably someone who has started or have experience with rebuilding a police department. What accountability measures will be in place? So accountability, that's a non-negotiable. We will have public complaint process, a community review committee to review complaints and recommend best practices to the mayor, and also public reporting on police activities and use of force incidents. Next question we got, how will the department address mental health crisis, disability-related calls, and non-violent incidents? So we'll have crisis intervention training for our officers, de-escalation training, and we'll work with our local nonprofits and mental health professionals for a co-response model to handle these types of issues. Because we know that all calls to 911 aren't criminally related, and we do have a mental health crisis. So we would work to address that by partnering with professionals who have more training in those areas. So how will the city manage contributions to the RSA, and what projections exist for long-term unfunded liabilities? And will the city establish a reserve fund of financial safeguards to cover future pension and benefit liabilities, especially in economic downturn? So all of our full-time employees pay into the Alabama retirement system. The city we budget for our share each year so that we're staying current on contributions. We currently have a reserve fund dimensions that has about $3.1 million as of, I checked that account, July 24th of 2025. But I am committed to exploring more ways to continue to increase that reserve fund, and so that we can have funds for those liabilities that are unavoidable. So the next question, will new officers be tier 1 or tier 2 of RSA? And what does that mean for the budget? So we will have a balance in offering competitive benefits so that we are attracting quality officers. But we want to make sure that it's sustainable for our taxpayers. So that's something that I'm open to reviewing to make sure that it's something that we can sustain. So the last question that I got was, since the city clerk is also treasurer, who oversees investments of public funds? The mayor and treasurer manage day-to-day financial oversight, and investments should be done via council approval during a public meeting so that you all are knowledgeable and involved on that process. So that's all the pre-questions that I had. Did we get any questions in the comment section? Can you explain mayor council for me? So mayor is the CEO of the city. The mayor manages the day-to-day of the operations of the city. Our councilors as a body manages the budget, and they enact laws, local laws for the city. Any other questions? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I want to make sure before we end the live. No questions? Okay. Yeah, so our discussion tonight is related to public safety. If you have questions related to other issues, please inbox me and we can set up a time to discuss that. And if I do see where there is a big topic, maybe I can work with my team to set up a discussion so that we can have a conversation on that. I think this went great tonight. I think it was very insightful. Please let me know if you learned something that you didn't know. This is something that I'm willing to do each budget year, and making sure that you are fully aware of where we stand financially as the manager of the day-to-day of the city. So again, thank you so much for joining me tonight to discuss how we can and how we will start our police department here in Centerpoint 2027. We will start working on this day one. So if we can start it before then, we definitely will. But my goal is 2027 to have our police department, our Centerpoint Police Department. So thank you so much for your time tonight. Listen, there is still time for comments if you have them. I'm trying to give you a little time if you have any more questions. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much. Thank you for submitting those questions. Thank you. If nothing else, you all. So August 26th, I need you. Thank you, Cassidy. I need you to show up at Centerpoint City Hall August 26th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. August 26th. Centerpoint City Hall, 2209 Centerpoint Parkway, 35215 D.M. Collins for the mayor of Centerpoint. It is time for Centerpoint to move forward. And I am your candidate with a plan to make that happen. So I need your vote. I need you to show up Centerpoint City Hall, August 26th, and cast your vote. Thank y'all so much for your time tonight. Have a good night, and I will see you August 26th.
My plan is to create a dedicated police department, one that is community-based, well-trained, and focused on building trust. Second, economic development, bringing in new businesses and creating new jobs. Third, making sure City Hall works for the people, creating better services, providing transparency and open communication to the people of Centerpoint. Our young people, and really our families and seniors, need safe and welcoming spaces to gather, play, and grow. And that starts with our parks and community spaces. When we invest in our parks, we're investing in our kids, our families, and the future of Centerpoint. Everyone deserves clean and safe spaces to enjoy right here in their neighborhood.